Welcome to segment 2 of Citizens Forum, being filmed on August the 4th. Our guest in this segment is Mazin Al Nahawi. Mazin is a Palestinian Syrian human rights activist. We're going to be talking about Palestine. And Mazin, what is a Palestinian Syrian?
Okay. Simply, I'm from my family lived in a city for over 600 years called Safad. And during most of the time, it was a city of a province called Palestine. And that province was a part of a bigger homeland or a bigger country called Syria. So Palestine, organically, it's a part of a bigger homeland, Syria. And for example, in 1920, my grandfather actually represented that city in the Syrian National Conference because, as I mentioned, Palestine is a province of Syria. But what happened that later we have the whole project of creating the Israeli occupation state in Palestine that was now, it's kind of making the whole issue, it's between Palestine and Israel, but it's belong to a bigger homeland, Syria. So when we talk about the Israeli occupation state in Palestine, it's simply a colonial settler state. And this is very important because the colonial aspect in this state, it's what show that it's not organic state in that country. And it has a purpose, mainly for the Western powers, at that time Britain and later now the USA, to have like a buffer state in that region. So I could say simply that the Israeli occupation state in Palestine, it's like the knife in the heart of the Arab state, or in what we used to call Arabia. And the Americans tried to give us the illusion that they are a moderator between the knife and the victim, in a time when they are the one putting that knife to emphasize the division of our community as one community. So, for example, but before we get to that, I would like to talk a little bit about Zionism, because the Zionist ideology, it's what is the backbone of the Israeli state. And it has many problems. We could also summarize it as it's came to solve what's so-called the anti-Semitism in Europe through colonization. And the word colonization, you would see it repeatedly in the writing of Herzl. Herzl is very important because his book, The Jewish State, considered as a manifesto for the Zionist movement and for the Israeli occupation state.
And Herzl was one
Hungarian, Jewish Hungarian.
He was one of the leaders of the Zionist movement.
He's the father. They were completely against what the Zionists want, which is a secular movement, want to bring Jews back to the Holy Land.
Okay, now that's worth emphasizing, because what you're saying is, what time was this?
This is late 19th century.
Okay, so the late 1800s, and you're saying at that time most Jews opposed Zionism, and I think that held true for a much longer time than that.
From the beginning, all the way until the Second World War. Now, what happened in Germany and the Nazi, that pushed more toward a Zionist proposal.
Right.
But in spite of the Zionists, we're more working with the Nazi, as many documents to prove later.
And it's worth mentioning, too, the fact that corporate America was funding Hitler. Hitler was brought to power. Hitler created this nightmare, forced the Jews out of Europe and into Palestine. I mean, you can see corporate America funding Hitler, and they're leading to amongst many other things, leading to the creation of a Jewish state in Palestine, and acting. I think you said earlier it became a a way to break up Arab nationalism.
Exactly. That's what the Britain understood from early 1907. There was a colonial conference in 1907.
It's almost as if somebody put a state of people smack dab into the United States, and they just started causing problems within the United States in order to destabilize the nation.
Talking about the U.S. aid and support to the Nazi, in the same time, American Jews were completely against all that, and they started a boycott movement against Germany. The Zionist movement in Germany were opposing to that boycott because they believed that ultimately their goal and the Nazi goal, it's one. It's the Nazi want the Jews get out of Germany, go somewhere else, and the Zionists want to take them to Palestine. So kind of complete the project. But coming back to the anti-Zionists, even through the youth, like for example, Chaim Weizmann in 1903 sent a letter to Herzl saying, the lion's share of youth is anti-Zionist.
So the lion's share of Jewish youth?
Yes, is anti-Zionist. They were more into trying to improve the life of Jewish Russian because they are in the end Russian. They don't belong to this holy land as a Zionist tried to. Now, when we talk about Jews around the world, we have 80% of them what we call Ashkenaz, and Ashkenaz, they are the European Jews. Most of them are converted. It's really pathetic idea that if somebody converted to a religion, he belong now to a different homeland than the land he grew up in. Like you are saying now, a Muslim from Manhattan, he's supposed to come back someday to his homeland in Saudi Arabia because he is Muslim. So the idea of Jewish people or Jewish nation, does not make sense. You cannot say that the Chilean Jew and the American Jew, Chinese Jew, Indian Jew, Arab Jew, Russian Jew are one. They have a common thing. There is nothing common between them. They are Russian, Arab, American, Chilean, and the same thing when you have Muslim, Christian, or whatever. You cannot build a nation based on a religion. Like again, when you mentioned the whole, like in the 1907, as I mentioned in the colonial conference, there was a prime minister. His name Campbell Berman, who was concerning about the colonial future for Britain in the region because there was aspiration for the Arab to get united.
And now Britain was a colonial power. They controlled a lot of the Arab world, and they were concerned that a force was rising against them as the colonialists and that wanted them out.
There was some report submitted to him by a group to study the issue, and there was 4 recommendations. The first one, to ensure the division and the separation of the region. The second, creating artificial political entity that would be under the authority of imperial countries. Third, to fight any kind of unity, whether intellectual, religious, or historical, and taking practical measures to divide the region inhabitant. And fourth, and it's the most important one, to achieve this, it was proposed that a buffer state be established in Palestine, populated by a strong foreign presence, which would be hostile to the neighbors and friendly to European countries and their interests. So
you want to set up a nation that's friendly to Europe. Yeah.
And now Herzl simply knew about all this British aspiration for colonialism. Actually, he wrote in his diary, England's great politicians were the first to recognize the need of colonial expansions. That is why Great Britain is, so he continues, so I must believe that there is here in England the idea of Zionism, which is a colonial idea, should be easily and quickly understood in its true and most modern form.
So you're saying we should see Israel as a kind of the colonial powers put it there for their own reasons, and what's the solution?
The solution, Palestinians from long time ago talk about one democratic secular state for all people in Palestine. That from 1969, after I born 1 year. Now they are talking about the Islamists. Let's remember something, that the American who brought the Mujahideen to Afghanistan, the Israeli did the same thing when Golda Meir and her Mossad starting supporting Hamas to kind of pressure in that time PLO, who it used to be a secular. And when we talk about secular, here I mean separating religion from the state. Mosque, church, synagogue, temple, had everybody free to have a Jewish, Muslim, a Christian home. But our state, it's belong to everybody. And if we do that, then the colonial project for the Zionist movement in Palestine will be dismantled little by little without any problem.
You know, everybody in the region there is paying such a heavy price, and the puppeteer, it seems, are the people who run the United States, and they're just creating a nightmare over there that hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people are paying with their lives. Mazin Al Nahawi, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack, for having me again.
And thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.